Question. Dear Kim, I hope this message finds you well. My name is Ash and I'm a 36-year-old woman who moved to the United States in 2018, and I'm a US citizen now. I've been deeply affected by the news surrounding ICE, US Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the raids and the treatment of immigrants and illegal immigrants. Their behavior feels inhumane, and it breaks my heart to see people, especially vulnerable families, treated with such disregard. Lately, I found myself emotionally overwhelmed. Even small things seem to push me to the edge, but these events have shaken me profoundly. I keep asking myself, how can one human being do this to another? Where is the compassion, the empathy, the recognition of our shared humanity? I've been following the teachings of the Ascended Masters through your work, and I wonder, can they offer any insight or guidance on how to process this pain and remain spiritually grounded in the face of such injustice? Is there a higher perspective that can help me understand or navigate these emotions? Thank you for all that you do. Your work has been a source of light, and I hope you might share any wisdom the Masters have on this matter. Well, I totally understand your feeling, since I lived in the United States as an immigrant myself. So we can look at it from two perspectives. Let's take the first here. How can there be people who I keep asking myself, how can one human being do this to another? Where's the compassion, the empathy, the recognition of our shared humanity? And this is a question I've been asking myself since I learned about the Holocaust. Because the question was always, I understand, I could see that Hitler was in a certain state of mind, but he couldn't have done what he did alone, right? Somebody had to round up the Jews, somebody had to transport them on cattle cars, somebody had to push them into the gas chambers and bury them afterwards. So the question is, how could this happen? How could there be so many people in a society that have lost all sense of humanity? And the answer to this is that, well, there's two levels of answers to it. First of all, these kind of things are always orchestrated by fallen beings. And if you don't know what a fallen being is, you need to watch my video on how the world was created. So the fallen beings are the ones who have this, because the fallen beings they have learned that the way to manipulate people. Okay, let's even step back. Most people have that sense of humanity. It's the don't do unto others what you don't want others to do to you. So, if you don't want to be woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning and have yourself and your children shoved into a cattle car and taken off to a concentration camp, then you don't do that to others. So most people have that sense. But the fallen beings have learned that you can get people to override it when you do two things. You define there's an epic goal that has to be reached, and it's it's epically important that we reach this goal. And number two, what is standing in the way of this goal is a certain group of other people. So if we get rid of that group of other people, we can reach the goal, and it'll be paradise on earth, and if not, it'll be hell on earth. So there's a certain amount of humanity, human beings, that can be pulled into this epic mindset, as I call it. That's what the fallen beings have learned, and they are good at creating these circumstances. You see it in Nazi Germany, you see it in the Soviet Union, you see it in the United States today. It's simply that state of consciousness that's being outplayed. I'm not trying to be diplomatic at all. What's going on with these ICE raids is the exact same lack of humanity that you saw when the Nazis rounded up the Jews in 1930s Germany. It's the same mindset. These people are not really humans. They are the problem. And if we just get rid of them, we'll make America great again. So therefore, we can do whatever we want to ship them out of here so they're out of our way. No humanity whatsoever. I'm not sure that helps you whatsoever deal with these feelings you're talking about or being disturbed by it. but at least it can help you understand, because for me, it's just simply, the way I look at it is, the American people have not learned the lesson that many people in Europe learned after the Second World War and the Holocaust. That's why they've attracted the current circumstances. And so I look at it that, first of all, it won't get as bad as it was with the concentration camps. I say it's the same mindset, but it won't be executed with the same brutality, because they're not killing the immigrants. But I look at it as a necessary phase to expose in the American people that they are lacking in humanity. And this is seen in other ways, for example, the lack of public health care, which most developed countries have, and the United States doesn't have. And that's another sign of this lack of humanity. Another sign is that they are allowing a small group of billionaires to run the country. I mean, it's not really a democracy. I see it as a necessary learning experience, and that helps me distance myself from it. Now, of course, I don't live in the United States, so it's much easier for me. But in terms of these, are there any insight and guidance on how to process this pain and remain spiritually grounded in the face of such injustice? Well, the answer is really what I've said so many times, that the situation is an opportunity for you to look at your own psychology and your own reactions, these subconscious selves that I'm always talking about. And I know I sometimes sound like a broken record when I'm big, but really, I mean, everything in your life revolves around your psychology, and your psychology is very much affected by these subconscious selves. So whenever you have an unbalanced reaction, where you're disturbed by something, that disturbance is because you have some subconscious selves. And I would suggest here that you certainly have some subconscious selves that are related to you coming to America as an immigrant. Because America is, and has for decades, been somewhat hostile towards immigrants. I mean, it's not easy to get in, it's not easy to get a green card, it's not easy to become a citizen. So you can very easily have some subconscious selves relating to that, which I think should be relatively easy to look at. But I think, when you're a spiritual person, you're open to ascended master teachings, and you see a reaction in yourself like this, I think it really relates to you being an avatar coming to Earth and going through what I call the birth trauma. I have my entire playlist called Avatar Psychology, where I talk about this. So I really think you should watch this, because I think, in a sense, your coming to America has triggered these subconscious selves you created in order to deal with the birth trauma of coming to Earth, being exposed to the fallen beings. And I think it will definitely help you to use the tools the Masters are given. Again, the book Healing Your Spiritual Traumas is the main book that I would start with. And so I think you can come to resolve it, but it will definitely take work. It will definitely take work. I think also, for me, what helped me a lot, and I've said this before, that this was really, for me, was triggered by the Russian invasion of Ukraine, is to look at your attitude to free will. I also talk about that in Avatar Psychology. Because it's like, before I dealt with this in myself, I had this belief that, we could make it to Saint Germain's golden age without any really big dramatic events happening. And after I looked at my psychology and dealt with that, I realize now that that may not always be the case. It may be a naive belief on my part, because I didn't want people to suffer. But I have to accept that most people are in the school of hard knocks, and the only way they're going to learn is that the knocks become so hard they can't ignore the need to change. And so this is simply what's happening, is that things are being accelerated. You also have the 12-year cycle that the Masters initiated at New Year's, so you can watch that playlist as well. And that means that things are coming out. They are being acted out in more and more extreme ways. And so what you see with Trump and the whole ICE thing and deporting immigrants is things are just becoming so extreme that it becomes more and more difficult for people to ignore this. You already see in the US how there are many local communities where they have people who have been deported, who have been living there for years, decades, and been integrated in the community. And you have these people who say, well, when I voted for Trump, I thought he would just get rid of the gangs, but not good, upstanding people who are a part of the community. So you already see a lot of people who are starting to wake up. You also have farmers who can't harvest their crops because they are relying on immigrants to harvest them, because no American will work for low wages. And so you see a lot of people who are beginning to realize that this is just too extreme. I mean, it's just too much. I mean, it's just inhumane. And that's the lesson that needs to be learned. So it helps me gain perspective when I see that. And again, I can clearly say it's easier for me since I don't live in the US, but still I think you can gain that perspective where you can say, okay, obviously, let's step back even further. Let's say America. I came to the US in 1987. I lived there until 2009. I met a lot of wonderful American people. I have a lot of good friends that are American. I think the American people are generally very open, very friendly. But I also see that America is a younger nation than some of the nations in Europe. And many Americans haven't realized one lesson that many people in Europe have learned. That is, we're all in the same boat. We are all in this together. And what happens to you also has an effect on me. No man is an island. Many Americans still believe in this, whatever you want to call it, rugged individualism. And they will say, for example, with healthcare, why should I pay for somebody else getting sick? But you're not. You're paying so that when you get sick, there's somebody there who can take care of you. Just like you're buying insurance. But many Americans haven't developed that social awareness, that level of humanity where basically, if you want to talk in Christian terms, they see themselves as their brother's keeper. Many Americans think they're good Christians, but they don't see themselves as their brother's keeper. And that's a contradiction in terms. And it's like, when I look at America, I would say, America is at a certain level of humanity today. But America is behind where it ideally should have been according to the Ascended Master's plan. And I see the whole Trump presidency as a way to force America to close the gap, because he is going to act out the inhumanity in more extreme ways than any other president has been willing to do. And that's going to give people an opportunity to see that it's just too much. We're just behind. We can't go on like this. And unfortunately, it seems like that's the only way people are going to learn that lesson. And so that's just what gives me the perspective to say, okay, basically let the chips fall where they may. And so I think that what is going to happen in a little more long term is that more and more people are going to simply rise to a higher level where they say, I cannot identify with this. I cannot accept this. This is simply not America. This is not what America is about. And that will cause the collective consciousness to be raised to a higher level. And America will change. I think there will be an awareness that what has made America a prosperous nation is immigration. Because you have people who come from a poor society, they see America as an opportunity, and they are willing to work hard to take advantage of that opportunity. And that's what has driven the American economy. And believing that immigrants are a detriment to the economy, it's just fantasy. And I think that will become more and more clear. I also think that as a result of the raising of the collective consciousness, universal health care will simply be seen as an unavoidable step, just like it has been for most of the older democracies. That you cannot have people dying on the streets because you can't afford to go to the doctor, while there are billionaires who are just wondering about, should I buy a bigger yacht than Bill Gates has? I mean, what kind of a society is this? And so, I don't know, I see it as America is in a transition phase, and Trump is just sort of crystallizing the changes that need to happen here. And it will get better. It will get better. It will probably get worse before it gets better, but in the long run, it will get better. So, as I said, I hope this helps you shift your perspective a little bit, but I would really say the psychology that you are feeling here, that you are dealing with, probably goes back to when you first came to Earth and received that birth trauma. And I would see it as an opportunity to resolve that, to really deal with that, to come to a point where you're not disturbed by it anymore.